Parents of people who are addicted, listen up. I know the exhaustion of the starting over. They've been to rehab once, twice, three, five times, who knows? And if you're a parent who's watched your child struggle with addiction, you already know what this exhaustion feels like. And it's not the kind that you get from not getting enough sleep. It's the kind that builds up after years of fear and broken trust and constant uncertainty. One of the most painful parts of the current recovery system is that it forces families to keep starting over. Every new program means a new intake, every new assessment, you know this, a new counselor, a new set of promises, new discharge plan. All sounds good on paper, and then far too often falls apart, just falls apart in this fragmented system and turns recovery into a revolving door. And you parents, us parents, live in a cycle of hope and heartbreak when this is going on. That's why we created the recovery ecosystem. It doesn't give up on the child ever, even when maybe we do for a moment. It follows that person and supports the family, helping them keep going when the going gets uncertain. Because it's always tough, right? But uncertain. And what you get in the recovery ecosystem really, truly matters. It's going to deliver to you the information you really want to know. So those days that the behavior returns, those days that they sound like the same old addict, maybe they are okay. And you can help them and be a part of it. You become an active participant in recovery, not a bystander, not someone sitting on the sides. Active participant, but you're doing it with objective data and leveraging technology. It'll help you too. It's a really, really good thing. So there's this other part of it called the pain of not knowing what's true. Have you ever sat back and been like, man, I want to believe what they're telling me? Because one of the hardest things for parents to not, it's not just the addiction itself, but the uncertainty it creates. Parents begin to live, people like me begin to live in this world where we don't know anymore. Are they sober? Are they going to the meetings? Are they working a program? Are they lying? What are they doing? Are they safe? I can't find them. They didn't answer my text. The current recovery system is so fragmented, and because of that, families are left behind. Treatment centers don't communicate with outpatient providers. Counselors don't communicate with probation. Sponsors don't communicate with clinicians, and parents are expected to somehow piece this together. All this stuff, the truth becomes a gut feeling, and it just develops all sorts of anxiety and worry, and it's like an emotional torture. So we created the recovery ecosystem to help with that. It gives parents something they rarely get in this journey, and that is clarity. It provides measurable accountability, structured engagement, and real-world proof of participation. It replaces that guessing with visibility, and you can finally see what's going on. So the recovery ecosystem, it's recoveryecosystem.ai right up here, recoveryecosystem.ai. This is the avenue to success immediately following clinical care. And the clinicians can be connected to this. The probation officers can be connected to this. The sponsors and mentors can be connected to this. And you can be connected to this. And you'll get it in a way that helps you have a sense of knowing as opposed to worry and uncertainty. It's a very small price to pay. It's not an expensive thing. You compare it to things like outpatient treatment, intensive outpatient treatment. This is not expensive. It can be an add-on. If they're already in intensive outpatient, add this on. And if their counselors want to be added on that are in that particular program, that your son or daughter can add them on. They can add them on. It's really, really easy, but it's an ecosystem where before at the center of the whole thing was this brand new to recovery addicted person. And somehow they go from an entirely irresponsible life in many ways to being the sole responsible party to connect all of the dots. Well, it's in many cases an unrealistic expectation. So then as parents, we fall in and say, I'll do it, son or daughter. I'll do it because we're so afraid. They're so afraid. I mean, I know it. Trust me, I know this pain. We're so afraid they're going to fail that we're willing to do this for them. And then people say that's enabling and that's not helpful. And they got to do it for themselves. And it just gets really confusing, not just intellectually, but emotionally, cognitively. It is maddening. How do I do the right thing? And the answer is really clear in the recovery ecosystem. You won't have that problem. because the ecosystem allows or empowers or creates an amplification of that person in recovery. And instead of them being at the center trying to figure it all out, that stuff that's around them is surrounded and pouring into them from all directions. It's a completely different thing. It's all a circle with the person in recovery at the center, but it has respect for you and the pain you've experienced and the emotional problems that have come to you as a result of your concern, your worry, your love for your child. Yeah, it addresses your pain. It's dignity for you. Small price to pay. I hope you check it out, recoveryecosystem.ai. One of the other reasons for creating the recovery ecosystem is the failure of the kind of the 1 hour a week recovery. You know, many parents have watched their loved one attend counseling or outpatient care and still just spiral on down. And the truth is, the current system often treats addiction, you know, like something that can be managed 1 or 2 appointments a week, a few meetings a week. But addiction doesn't attack once a week. It attacks every day. And it really gets in there in between. Like seldom will you see somebody show up at their counseling appointment drunk or high. So it gets them in isolation. It attacks them in the car after work, after a fight, after boredom, after stress, after shame, after the fragmented system provides scattered help. And here's something you might not think about. More often attacks when things are just fine. New to recovery, pocket full of money, feeling pretty good. That could be a really dangerous spot if it's not supported properly. And in the past, maybe we didn't support that properly. Lots of pats on the back, stomping across stages, things like graduations and such, which are all symbolic and good. Of course they are. We want to celebrate the success. Of course we do. But maybe demanding more afterwards is the key, and that they understand that's what is next, that there's more expectation and a better way to meet those expectations. Because while addiction operates like a full-time predator, us parents watch this and feel helpless because we know our kid needs support constantly, not occasionally. And the recovery ecosystem is designed for that type of real life situation. It delivers daily structure and little tiny micro courses, behavioral reinforcement, AI-driven guidance. But what I mean by that, it's highly personalized. It learns the individual and matches those micro courses to them specifically. And you can see those courses. You can go into the recovery ecosystem and you can see what your child's courses are teaching them. You can even talk to them about it. They can be subjects of your own conversations. You can practice them yourself. Yeah, you can do that. And this goes on all the time, sometimes as much as 8 times a day, all throughout the week. It turns recovery into something that surrounds the person instead of something they visit once in a while. Really important idea. And for us parents, that means fewer emergencies and fewer terrifying surprises. It doesn't mean they're going to do perfect. It doesn't cure anybody. It just means that you're going to see the drift and the behavior and the engagement before it happens. You get some idea that something's coming and you get the ability to say, hey, it looks like you're skipping your courses again. A great way to say it is, can we just sit down together and go over them together? And just have them read them out loud. Yeah, just care enough to listen to them read the courses out loud. Maybe it'll be insightful for you too. Who knows? But it does reorient them to recovery. Maybe that's all it takes. There's a lot of research behind how we built the recovery ecosystem. There's a ton of ideas in it from a neurobiological standpoint. It is a really powerful, powerful tool. And we all know the problem of a lack of continuity after rehab. You know, for many of us, rehab feels like the last big hope. There's the magic day. Johnny went to rehab, right? My mom was, when I first went into AA, my mom put it up on Facebook. Dan went to AA, you know, like that was the magic day that all things got well. We want that to be true, but we know it is not true. It doesn't mean that they're going to use again. Some people do go to rehab one time and stay clean and sober. Definitely happens. It is not typical. And what we got ahead of us is the battle between the addictive mind and the person they all want to be. I wanted to be, your child wants to be, and you want them to be that way too. Even so, For many of us, rehab feels like that last big hope, and you scrape together your money, you pray, you sacrifice, you do whatever it takes to get that child into treatment. And for a moment, it feels like relief because they're like off the street or out of the house or out of some bad set of circumstances. But, they're going to come back out of there. Then comes discharge, right? And parents often describe discharge day as one of the scariest days of their life. You know this because the current system sends people out of structured care right back into the real world. Those structured care environments is a way to say artificial environments. They're not realistic. In a lot of ways, when all the things that they say are enabling, if you do them, like do their laundry and make their meals, all that kind of stuff, don't demand of them, let them sit around in circles and chat with one another. A lot of those things would be called enabling. Like, you'd be considered mentally ill yourself by some groups. If you're allowing that kind of thing in your house, if you're picking up typical normal adult responsibilities for your adult child that's addicted, and that's true. That's true. You're not helping them by doing that. Many rehabs, especially the ones that call themselves like luxury rehabs, that's just a paid version of that in a lot of cases. Yes, they address the problem. Yes, they introduce them to other things. Yes, they reduce the amount of stress on them. And yes, that is all helpful. It doesn't mean it is going to end perfectly because they leave and they have almost nothing in the world holding them together. The support becomes scattered, optional, easy to avoid. The accountability kind of disappears. The structure collapses. And we are left holding our breath, waiting for the relapse phone call maybe, or the police. The recovery ecosystem solves the discharge gap. It creates continuity. It doesn't end when rehab ends. It stays active. It stays connected, and it keeps that person engaged through measurable participation you can measure. It provides a bridge from treatment into real life. And for parents, that bridge can mean the difference between stability and devastation. It's real life. Real life consequences deliver real life results. All of us have to live in real life. I'm a recovered person myself. I got to deal with real life. Created this to help people deal with real life because I've seen so many people fail, and I've talked to their parents. I am one of those parents. So I want you guys just to relax for a second and check out recoveryecosystem.ai. recoveryecosystem.ai. So one last thought. The relief of a system that includes the family is vital. One of the most painful realities for parents is feeling excluded. Even if they have like a family day or they invite you in for an hour a week, they're still reporting to you all the things they did that you had no idea about. No idea. And they're an adult, right? Do we treat them like a kid? Do we treat them how do we manage this relationship now? I got this stranger, their new counselor, sitting in here telling me how my child is doing while they are self-incarcerated into a rehab facility for a moment. And they're doing good or not good. And they may use terms I don't understand. They may talk about therapy models I'm not all that familiar with. I mean, who knows? But it's a sense of feeling excluded. And it's just an extension of that fragmented system because inside of that facility are a lot of caregivers. And certainly this one counselor isn't the only counselor. And there's an account of things that went on that they're completely unaware of. In the recovery ecosystem, you can see the resulting drift of all that cumulative activity. And it's not dependent on this question. How are you doing? No, you can see it. It'll match that. You still want to ask that question, of course, but it'll match it or not match it. And it leaves room for a new conversation. You don't have to feel excluded. In the fragmented system, as you know, families are often treated like outsiders, and you may be the one paying the bills. You may be the actual customer, losing sleep, praying every night, all that stuff. I've done all of that, but you're still left in the dark. You don't know. You go once a week, maybe twice a month. And when things go wrong, the family becomes the emergency response team. Come get him. He's not doing it. No training, no guidance, no real support. That's how recovery should work. Addiction impacts the whole household, and recovery must include the whole household. The recovery ecosystem was designed with families in mind. It creates a unified framework that includes accountability, daily engagement, measurable progress, and consistent communication. Really important. It doesn't replace love. Of course it can. It strengthens it. It doesn't replace relationship. Naturally, it supports them. And it doesn't leave parents alone. The recovery ecosystem gives families a real system an actual thing to stand on instead of forcing them to live in the chaos and fear, uncertainty. Are they telling me the truth? Are they going to the meetings? Are they doing all the things they say? You're no longer naive because you finally have the structure, consistency, and hope that is backed by action. Yeah, it's really important. The recovery ecosystem, recoveryecosystem.ai. It's a low monthly cost to engage a very high level of connectivity that you can't get anywhere else. And people may talk about systems of addiction care, but they seldom exist. There are some out there. There's some pretty good ones. Even so, the recovery ecosystem is the way to connect all of the dots. It's a thing that's never going to give up. It's a place where you can get your questions answered, and it's all driven by the latest, very forward-thinking technology. I hope you engage it. As a parent, I think this is one of the best things you can possibly do to help your loved one. And even when they fall off, you still have it to help you. And that matters. Thank you for tuning in. My name is Dan Francis. I'm the CEO of Orbit Recovery Ecosystem. We're redefining addiction care through the use of technology and creating a true ecosystem. Thanks for your time.